Who are you and why do we care?
I am Paige Love. I am a sport dietitian, but I'm also a registered and licensed dietitian, which is important as tennis players seek their nutrition advice. You'd want that person to be qualified in the field, just like we have certified tennis teaching pros. We want to do the same thing in the nutrition area too. I own my own consulting business. I consult with a lot of tennis players, college teams, and both professional tours. The only registered dietitian, sport dietitian for the ATP tour internationally, and I'm one of 3 dietitians for the WTA tour. So I actually travel for both tours, do on-site tournament work. Grew up in Atlanta playing junior tennis. I played college tennis for Baylor. I still play, but I have to say, you guys might not like this, I'm also playing some pickleball. Hey, it's helping my tennis, I'm telling you. It's helping my reaction time and my movement. But I love my racket sports and I still participate. I also write a regular column for Altanet News. So as people hear what we talk about today, if you're interested in reading more about some tennis, very consumer-oriented sport nutrition information, there's lots on the Alta website. They catalog everything that we put up there, so lots of nutrition topics related to tennis.
I love it. And Bobby, I'm going to let you jump in early. I'm going to encourage you to jump in early because you know Paige from back in the day, should I say?
Paige and I were mixed doubles partners back in the day for a couple of successful seasons. Now sounds like she continues to play. I think I pretty much retired as my mixed doubles partner when we had a lot of success at double A3, a lot of success at double A2, and then we went to double A1 during the summer, and that was Waterloo. So we were all in our mid 30s. A couple people made the mistake of getting in relationships, so the team wasn't as much fun as it was when we started, but we had a couple really good seasons, and we had quite a wild following. We had a gentleman. You remember Dave Snyder, Page, the guy? He played on a different team, but he liked us so much, he would play his match and then come join us because we played out of an apartment complex our first year, and they let us have access to the pool. So he had literally a mobile Bloody Mary kit that playing in the pool that floated, and at post-match, this is what we did. So, like I said, Paige and I had a lot of success. Now, I'm not gonna rat Paige out and say probably didn't have the best Alta food next to us, but, that's for another time.
That is something I do address in those Alta articles, the right kinds of food to have for the team play. But I will say the Bloody Mary mix actually is decent sodium recovery. Not the alcohol, but the Bloody Mary mix. The tomato part is actually excellent for recovery.
Yeah, I'm
Nice
pretty
and
sure they
nice
were
and
not virgins.
salty.
Yeah, that's it. Bloody Marys to recover from just drink the mix. Does anybody actually do that?
Virgin Bloody Marys or just tomato juice.
There we go. There's the real advice. So, and then the real question here is you've got connections on tour. What everybody wants to know, do you know Coco Golf?
I have met her and I have worked with her briefly. We have I would say they're not, sit down for 2 hours and talk to a player. When you're on site, I'm in the training room, so it's brief interactions. One of the roles that the dietitian serves is we review quarterly blood work. We also prescribe supplementation based on lows or highs in people's blood work, also medical issues that they're reporting. So my interactions with the players are in reviewing their diet and blood work at that time. Also addressing if they've had heat illness. That's a big issue, obviously, on the tour. In fact, they target us at hot tournaments so that we can help in the moment when they're having heat illness. So I've had interactions with she and many on these kinds of topics. So just keeping the girls healthy. It's kind of cool to watch what's happened on the women's tour. Their sport nutrition, sport medicine program is quite extensive. And we've seen that the women are staying healthier and they're not getting as run down. They're not getting as many colds. We're helping them maintain more normal blood levels of key nutrients like vitamin D and iron, which impact their immune system and their energy. So it's really neat to be able to look at the big picture and provide them what they need. Just like I was saying with the college teams, I go with the players to eat, even in the players' lounge, to help them get an optimum sport nutrition meal sometimes before or after. So pre, play, post-play, I'm dealing a lot with that pre-match, post-match nutrition, as well as their hydration needs and around the heat illness incidents.
Love it. And that's got to be such a fun thing to do. But I'm picturing you with a notebook flipping through blood work. Like, okay, Coco, here's your blood work. Arnold, and Alex, here's your blood work. Taylor, this is ridiculous. Come over here and talk to me. Like, is it, what does that even look like? You gave us a little glimpse just a second ago, but
Well,
how is
for
that?
the women, we do a lot of our work very out of sight, like in the training room. And sometimes we'll have a slightly private area, but usually it's right there in the training room. Honestly, sometimes right when they're receiving physical therapy because their time is so limited. So the dietitians are placed in a visual place where, number one, they'll see us to think, "Well, yeah, I need to talk to you about blah, blah, blah." And so, or I need to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. So we will get to, visually be there while they're getting medical care. It's a very team treatment orientation for them. With the men, because I'm not in the training room, I'm usually out in the players' lounge, like a tournament two tournaments I go to a lot for the men in the US are Miami Open and DC Open, both because heat illness can be an issue, but I'm positioned in the players' lounge and I do actual heat stress testing. I test their saliva to determine are they well hydrated before they go on the court so they can make adjustments right away. The concentration of our saliva tells us about how well hydrated we are. I do pre and post match weights with a pretty sophisticated scale that looks at total body water shifts so they can know how much water weight they've lost in their sweat so that they can immediately rehydrate. They can also, obviously, before, if it's showing any levels of dehydration, we can encourage them to appropriately drink. I also sweat test the men on the spot, which means I give them a patch that they wear during their warm-ups before matches in the heat, and they bring it back. I squeeze out the sweat into a test tube, into a little tray, and I have a device that touches a computer chip that touches the sweat, and it can tell them specifically the sodium loss per hour. And now the sport nutrition has gotten so sophisticated that we can then prescribe, okay, you need to do this much of this beverage that contains this amount of sodium to keep up with the rate that you're losing salt in your sweat. And some of the men have sweat rates upwards of 2,000 milligrams of sodium loss per hour. And the US dietary recommendations for sodium, low end are 2,000 milligrams for the whole day. But they're losing 2,000 milligrams per hour on the court. So, I don't know if y'all have noticed, there's all kinds of electrolyte powders and formulas and pills and salt sticks and all kinds of stuff. So the insurgence of the high sodium products has really matched the science identifying the increased sodium losses.
I think that pretty much answers the "why are you unique" question that we usually have, because it's really great information. The only other off script question I have is, Bobby, were you willing to share your post coaching, post on court meal with Paige to say, hey, is this the right thing I should be doing after being out in the sun?
Heck no. But I do want to, I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it because as we've gotten older and as the tennis player in Atlanta has gotten older, my limited medical background, which keeping in mind I was pre-law, not pre-med, I think, there's been it seems like a lot more what I call the calf injuries over the last 20 years, where 25 years ago, people weren't popping calves. And I think it's a combination of we're older playing, and the other side is we don't hydrate properly. So if you have a 9 a.m. or a 1 p.m., depending what male or woman, when should you start? When should the alto tennis player start hydrating to be ready for that match? Not, I'm going to eat a banana, the old Michael Chang, eat a banana at 10 a.m. in the middle of my match because that's going to do something. That might keep you alive, but that's not helping you with your hydration. When should you realistically begin to hydrate?
Well, what you've just described is the typical mentality. I would say even on the ATP tour, I'm always a little surprised that some of the guys are mildly dehydrated when we do these hydration tests, and this is a couple hours before they're going to be playing. So that's when people start thinking about it, when they start thinking about their hydration. And that's really too late. I mean, it really needs to be a daily routine. Most male athletes need upwards of a gallon a day. Most male players need upwards of a gallon a day. So you need to be hydrating throughout the day. And then, yes, and then between the 2 to 4 hours before, we want to be additionally prehydrating, even with electrolyte sources if you're in the heat. And then leading up to match play, you bring down the volume. But I would say on average, we really want to be doing at least 16 ounces per hour going backwards leading up to match play in the heat. Now, it can be half of that when you're playing in a colder environment and you're not sweating as much. Where I feel like players have really gotten the messages their on-court hydration, because obviously they're thinking about how much to drink on court, and we really recommend about 4 to 8 ounces every 15 to 20 minutes. And in tennis, we have the perfect opportunity, unlike pickleball, to stop at the changeovers and drink adequately. And, if you're not drinking at a changeover, that's something you got to really jump on, take advantage of. And I really encourage having a little bit of water and a little bit of your electrolyte beverage or sport beverage, depending what you're drinking and what your needs are given the heat. So, half a cup to a cup every 15 to 20 minutes to keep up with even low sweat rate levels. Most players don't keep up with that. So thus the need to know, okay, how much have I lost in a match? And of course, a lot of people would be like, great, I lost some weight. But when you've lost it in that short time period, that is simply sweat loss. And if you're going to play another match, if a player in a tournament has a singles at one time and a doubles at another time, you want to be fully rehydrated by the time you're getting back out to that second match. Another very simple thing, a good takeaway on this discussion that anyone can do is just look at your urine color. We are always asking our athletes to look at urine color. In the WTA locker room stalls, we have the urine color chart, and it goes from clear all the way down to a dark brown with levels of hydration based on your urine color. And the goal is a light yellow, we call it lemonade yellow color. If you're clear, you're overhydrating. So we want a little bit of concentration. That's a normal color. And if it's that dark yellow, then you're becoming dehydrated. And we expect players when they come off of the court to be a little bit dehydrated and then to drink accordingly to bring that back up to the appropriate hydration level, that light yellow. So
So,
just check
Shaun,
your urine color can be a great way to be aware of your hydration status.
there you go. That's good to know right there. And going back to what you said, Shaun, how long before a match, Paige? And what would you say would be, I'm not, and
Well,
I'm
I guess my first point I was saying is you don't want to just be thinking about right before the match. You want to keep your daily hydration on schedule, be evenly hydrating throughout the day, watching out for those caffeinated beverages closer to tour. There's often energy drink sponsors that want to sponsor a lot of these tour events, and we just try to keep those energy drinks as far away from the players as we can. We can't stop them from giving it to the consumers, but obviously we don't want high caffeine anytime close to the match because that's a diuretic. It causes you to pee out more fluid. So the 4 hours before, with good hydration practices leading up to that, stable in the training diet, and then that 4 hours before, trying to get the 1 to 2 cup range, ideally the bottle of water per hour, the regular half-liter bottle of water per hour leading up to that match time.
So now take it, what's the time for food intake? And what would be a good pre-match meal?
Well, in the ideal situation, but what tennis is like in a tournament, you don't really know when you're going to get on because you're waiting for players' matches to finish. And that's definitely what happens in the pro world. Ideally, 3 hours before, to allow adequate digestion time. You want a high carbohydrate meal, a little bit of protein, lower fat. You want it to be fuels that are going to quickly provide fuel for the player, capping off energy from their eating from the previous day and that morning. So if it's a breakfast meal, something like oatmeal and toast and an egg and fruit would be a great meal. If it's a lunch meal on the tour, I would say pasta is still one of the most popular meals. A pasta or rice base that's taking up half of the plate, maybe a quarter of the plate in a protein. and a quarter of the plate and a light cooked vegetable. You don't want to do a lot of big salad meals before you play. That doesn't give you energy. Even if you're watching your weight, you're going to go on the court with low energy. You don't want to do heavy protein, and these days with the popularity of keto and paleo, that doesn't work for tennis. I did a whole extensive research article on why these high protein, low carb diets do not work for the tennis player. Tennis is anaerobic. Lots of short power anaerobic moves on a court. What fuels that is carbohydrate. If you're on a low carb diet, you're not going to make it to the third set at the same energy level you started off with. You are going to be draining the tank pretty quickly. So complex carbohydrates, carbing it up with things like rice, pasta, starchy vegetables, corn, peas, beans. Bowl meals are great. I love a bowl meal for a tennis player, but not doubling protein.
So I have a 9 a.m. match. We're focused, mostly about social tennis, right? So the tour players already know, hopefully, what you know because you've told them. But the people listening to this podcast, it's probably not Coco herself. But somebody with a 9 a.m. match, are you telling me I got to have breakfast at 6 a.m.?
Well, if you don't get up early, if you're not an early person, then you need to volume decrease. So, here's the on the run choice, Shaun, would be something like a Cliff Energy bar and a banana and, your 1 to 2 bottles of water, something like that. Or what I like to remind people with bars is think about the food equivalent of a bar. A Cliff bar is like a bagel and a bar. I'd rather you have the food. To have the bagel with maybe a little bit of peanut butter to give you a little bit of protein, banana for some quick energy and potassium, and then the water for your hydration.
So if I'm in, let's say 7:30, I could be in the car at 8. I'm driving to my match by 9. I can have my breakfast at 7:30.
Yeah,
I
you
was
can
told.
do that breakfast right there. But
Okay.
I will say the disclaimer is each person has unique gastric emptying times. Some people who tend to be nervous might need more time, and other people who are used to eating closer to their activity time may tolerate a shorter window. The ideal window for a full meal would be 2 to 3 hours. A lot of people can tolerate a high carbohydrate small meal like that within 1 to 1.5 hours before.
Yeah, we all love that tennis player that shows up and you get warmed up and they're like, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. Really? Now? Now? I get it. We can't really control it, but you didn't put any thought into this before our match?
In the runner's world, we call that runner's trots. I don't know if there's a term for tennis. We could call it tennis trots, but
There's a term for it, but we won't use it on this podcast.
I just thought it was part of the ladies' warm up. Okay, we're done. We need to use the restroom before we can play. Okay,
It's just every time, right?
every time. Okay.
Okay, so we've covered hydration. We've covered nutrition from a meal perspective. Are we missing anything, Paige? What else do you have for our audience that can really be helpful from an actionable advice perspective?
And Shaun kind
well,
of
I,
asked
I, I think
the
so.
recovery meal too.
On court nutrition, don't forget it's okay to have portable, little, easy to digest carbohydrate sources in your racket bag. So that would be things like I recommend the little 100-calorie pretzels because what you can digest is plain bland carbs. And if they're salty, even better. Of course, the higher carbohydrate energy bars. So that would be things like Cliff or Bobo. I really like another brand called Pro Bar that's all natural. It's almost like a trail mix in a bar. So having those kind of things in your bag. I also am a fan of energy chews, which have a little bit of starch in solution with electrolytes in what's like a gummy chew. Those are used in a lot of sports, but those are great on a tennis court too, particularly going into a third set when you're feeling like a sport beverage is not enough energy and you're kind of hitting a low, but you don't feel like you can stomach solid food. You don't feel like you could stomach a bar, then the energy chews are easier to digest. And what's very similar to those are gels. You'll see a lot of players on the tour squeezing gels, and these are primarily high carbohydrate solutions, which have a little starch in solution, very much like the chew, just more viscous. But with both of those, you have to make sure that you're drinking water or that it just kind of gloms up in the upper gut. So to make it available, drinking your water and sport beverage with it so it dilutes it down and makes it easier to digest.
Got it. And Bobby reminded us of the question, what should Bobby be eating after he comes off the court?
All right, so that's recovery nutrition. And what a lot of players forget to do is to get a good quick, along with post-hydrating, we kind of talked about how important it is to make up for the sweat losses. So continuing to drink your water and sport beverage to continue to post-hydrate because we're still sweating and cooling down. But then as soon as you feel like you're able to stomach something more solid, trying to get a very easy to digest protein source, chocolate milk is a great choice. So grabbing a chocolate milk, having a little bit of a protein type bar at that time. So that would be like a Cliff Builder bar or a Protein Plus Power bar, or even a nut-based bar would give you, like an RX bar, would give you some protein. So you just want a quick digestible form of protein, either in a liquid form or in a solid but portable, easy to quickly eat form. And then trying to get a good meal. So this is back to Bobby's, I don't know what he's eating, but trying to replicate the fuel usage in the meal choices on the back end. So we still need to replenish carbohydrates. We can handle a little bit more protein at that point because we're going into a resting time. We don't need to watch the protein level. We can have a little bit more for recovery, and we can also have more vegetables at that time, and then continuing to have hydrating beverages at the post meal. So that's where we could afford to have a lean steak or a nice salmon fillet, a bigger piece of meat, along with similar carbs, complex carbohydrate carbs like rices, potatoes, pastas, and then maybe a side salad or a cooked veggie, but more volume in that recovery meal, particularly if you've had a 3-set match and you've been out there for several hours and have expended a lot of calories. So you can afford to have.
Well, like it, Bobby, we cover it all.
So my cheeseburger and French fries are kind of in the ballpark. They're just not probably
Well,
the
there are some redeeming points to that. The burger, if it's lean, is lean protein. The bun is still some carbohydrate, but it's probably a little more fat coming in than you burnt on the core. So just keep that in mind.
message heard. Now, one quick personal question, Paige, because I take a morning concoction, I call it. It's a tablespoon and a half of virgin olive oil, tablespoon and a half of lemon juice, and every now and then I sprinkle inside cayenne. And I literally do this empty stomach every day. It's terrible tasting, but is it actually doing something positive?
Well, I mean, each of those has some nutritional value. What do you think you're getting from it? Why are you doing that, Bobby?
Well, because I watched on YouTube who's a nutritionist who said this is great for you. Because obviously I don't eat real well. So I want this is my band-aid for all my bad habits to start the day with some extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah, so you're getting a good, healthy and saturated, healthy oil.
Yes.
So but that tablespoon's a nice little chunk of healthy fat there. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't do that right before you go on the tennis court. The cayenne is highly anti-inflammatory, but could be a little rough on the tummy. I don't know if it, but anybody who has a sensitive stomach might be a little cautious on doing that. I don't see any problem with you doing that in your day. I just would do that concoction right before you're about to play. I think it could feel a little heavy, number one, and possibly irritating to the gut. But those food sources, the nutrients present there, are things that we can benefit from for sure. So not such a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah, you got one going for you, Bobby.
Watch the right YouTube guy. All right.
Exactly. But I think we're good. Bobby, anything else before we hit her with King of Tennis or Queen of Tennis in this case?
I mean, we were doubles partners, and I didn't know she went to Baylor. How did we get along so well?
What's wrong with Baylor?
I went to TCU. I mean, we were rivals for Pete's sakes. We were up and down 35 from each other. I passed Baylor all the time on my way to UT to go party.
Good part about it is we eventually grow up.
I don't know how that never came up.
I don't know how that didn't come up.
Maybe for a reason. Well, Paige, we appreciate you being here. We have one last question that we always love to ask. And in your case, it is the Queen of Tennis question. But we'd love to know if you were made Queen of Tennis, whether it was the professional tour, social, the whole world, or just local here to Atlanta, is there anything as Queen of Tennis, is there anything you would do or change?
Well, something I think would be really cool to have, kind of all levels of play, is just what we call sport fueling stations. And in Alton, Atlanta, we could do this because people are bringing food, but we just want to have the right criteria so they know what to bring. but where we'd have appropriate hydration sources, appropriate snacks to have on court, appropriate pre-match options, appropriate post-match options. And I've written a couple of articles about this in Alternate News. So I would love, if I was queen of the court, the ability to get that message out to more people and have the right hydration sources and fuels available courtside. And it'd be kind of cool if we could have like this little portable thing and we all kind of contributed and put in the right components. And we're learning along the way as we, bring these things in as team members, but just everybody having the right tools so that nutrition is not a limiting factor, but can enhance our performance no matter what age, no matter what level, just having all the right fuels and hydration sources to succeed.
Bobby, racket sports specific food truck.
I think I
Ooh,
love it.
ooh, I like it.
We had a portable Bloody Mary kit. Why can't we have a I mean,
Going the wrong way, Bobby. Going the
this
wrong way.
is like a business to me. Why isn't this being sold in stores? I mean, this is what here's your pre-match, here's your during match, here's your post-match. I mean,
I love it. Well, let's talk later. Maybe we have a business idea.
I think there's an idea here. I think there's
Exactly.
simplify it and give it to the people.
And
This will
imagine how
prove out
crazy
the-
parents are going to go at a junior tournament if we have something like this.
Oh my God. And it just beat devil dogs and glass of milk I had pre-tournament matches. So I mean, this is just the whole idea is a great thing. So yeah, evolution's a great thing.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
let's
we'll put it on the list.
switch to reality. That could be kind of cool.
All right. Well, it's why we like to ask the question, is because if we can help bring the queen of tennis idea to reality, we will. So we will definitely follow up. But Paige, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. It was fun to be with you guys. Great to spread the message this way. Thanks.
Good seeing you, Paige.
Thank you.